And I'm Jack.
And welcome to our channel. Woo!
It's back.
With a vengeance.
So today we're going to be talking to you all about identity. About our identities, what problems there are about identity, that whole thing.
Yes.
But before we start, make sure you like this video.
And because you're wonderful people, make sure you share and subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you never miss another video.
So Nay, why don't you start by talking about your identity? Where do you most identify with?
Ooh. So, I don't know. I do know. I would always say I am Zambian.
Mm-hmm.
To give you guys a bit of context, I was born in Zambia and came to the UK when I was about 6 years of age.
Mm-hmm.
And I have lived here ever since and rarely gone back to Zambia. However, if someone was to ask me, where am I from? I always say I am from Zambia. And I know there's microaggressions around this, but for me, having been born in Zambia, that is where I call home and that's what I present to the world that I am. Because for me, that is where I am from. My household, it might be located in England, but it is very much Zambian. And so I have always felt Zambian.
But a lot of people do have issue with that, right? So when someone asks where someone's from, often people are like, oh, you know, I'm from London, or I'm from Bethnal Green, or I'm from wherever.
Mm-hmm.
And they get annoyed if someone's like, okay, but that's not what I meant, you know. I meant, where are you from, kind of thing.
Where are you from?
But you just go straight for that.
Again, for me personally, it's very individualized. If you ask someone where they're from and they say to you London, you say great, thank you. You don't say where are you from. That is where they identify as home.
That's what that person wanted to say.
Exactly.
Okay.
If I was trying to differentiate where someone lives locally, I would say, do you live locally? Where do you live? I would be quite specific about the question I am asking. I never ask someone, what country are you from? If I wanted to know the lineage and the countries that their grandparents may have come from, because to be honest, London, America, UK, it's all such a mixing pot. People are from all over the world. I would always say, what is your heritage?
Sounds like an old apple cider, doesn't it?
Heritage apple cider. That's a very British thing to say, baby. Especially like second generation immigrants, this is their home, this is all they have ever known. I am a first generation immigrant, and so for me, home is Zambia. It doesn't matter how long I live in England, Zambia is always where I'll be from. I find it difficult to say I am British, because if I was to live in Singapore for the next 80 years, I would not start calling myself Singaporean. Okay. I might be a Singapore resident, but I will not, you know, then is it like I'm Zambian, British and Singaporean? No. For me, it's a no.
But you did spend the majority of your childhood and the majority of your life in Britain and in England. You grew up here around this culture, right? And you speak very London.
I'm very London, mate.
You know, what do you think about that though? Like, you know, surely there are a lot of British or London things that you do identify with.
So I identify with a lot of London and British culture, but that's not where I'm from.
Okay.
So my identity is not always linked to where I'm from. Where I'm from is about my roots.
Okay. So let's move on from that then. So you're from Zambia, but then with you, because we're talking about not just about where you're from, but also identity, so multifaceted identity.
Right.
So where does Britishness or not fit into your identity?
Then I guess I would be a black woman. I guess I'd be black British from Zambia.
Okay.
Can you be that? Well, that's what I am.
I mean,
I'm choosing to be black British from Zambia.
Okay, but I mean, so you're trying to like find a specific label that fits you, right? Which is difficult. So let's forget about the label for now and let's just talk about how you feel, right? So,
I feel very British.
Okay.
And in what sense do I feel British? I feel the norms and values that are seen in British culture, I have assimilated so much so that they seem normal to me also.
Yeah, okay, so can you give an example?
I think a Sunday roast is just very normal thing. You have a roast on a Sunday, it makes sense. Family time, bish, bash, bosh, done. Sunday roast.
And that's weird, because for a lot of my childhood, I didn't really even have Sunday roast. That wasn't really a thing. My mum...
Well, I don't have Sunday roasts that much.
No,
but
it's true, you don't.
It's just a normal...
But you still think it's a normal thing, even though you don't do it that much. That's interesting.
I just think it's a norm. So maybe that's where I become British. When I start thinking British things are just...
the norm.
Yeah, or something I would like to do. I'd like to have a Sunday roast with my family.
Sunday roasts are good. So
they're so delicious.
Yeah. Any other examples?
It's hard because when you assimilate, like, that becomes your norm. So it's hard for me to now identify what is exactly British that I identify with that then makes me British.
I'm interested about your use of the word assimilation. So, because I don't actually know what the dictionary definition is, but I sort of think about assimilation as accepting and merging a certain amount of like the culture that you're surrounded with or the environment that you're in, and you adopt that, right? But I'm thinking, because you came when you were so young, you've only got the experience of 0 to 6 years in Zambia, and then everything else is your experience living in London, Britain, right? So I'm thinking, how much did you assimilate, i.e. like change the person that you were to adapt and fit into Britain, or how much of it did you just learn from scratch in Britain? Because, you know, by the time you're age 6 to 15 is such a time of learning and transformation. I'm wondering, did you assimilate in that period, or did you just like, that's just how you grew up around people? Do you see what I mean?
Part of being an immigrant, it means, although yes, I am in your country, these 4 walls around me are Zambian, okay? This is the Zambian embassy. So I spent a lot of my time in this household with my very Zambian parents.
Yeah.
And so you have to, they teach you the cultural norms of being Zambian, and then you have the norms that your friends and your school system teach you, and that is perhaps
normally naughty. Kids are bad influences, all of them, all kids. Stay away from kids, they're bad.
Just don't have any friends.
Listen to your parents, people. They know best.
That is legit the truth. But
anyway, sorry, you were saying.
I had to decide whether I take on the information that my family teaches me and live by their rules and by their cultures, or do I assimilate more into British culture? Me and my mum, different cultures. Me and my father, different cultures. Yeah. We live in the same place, we're from the same country, but because of how I've lived and who I've interacted with, my culture is very different to that of my parents. I am very aware of that, and it will be very different to someone in Zambia.
But do you find that difficult though?
Of course, because you're still living under their rules and you're trying to create your own rules, your own culture. They're like, no, you get beats, okay? There's no such thing as, let's call it social services. You're getting smacked, bro, if you step out of line. And then in fact you'll be on the bus and you're in public or something, and your mum will just pinch you, and she'll be like, if you cry, I will pinch you even harder. So you have to like...
That's not just a Zambian thing though.
Wow.
You know, British people get a whooping too. They used to. I don't. You know, not anymore.
It's
At least you can't
against the
say it
law.
on camera.
In this household, the law does not exist. You get whooped. Don't step out of line. Not anymore, I'm old, but you know, when you were younger. Other things, you're not allowed out to play out on the streets. I understand, like, English culture, it's really like, oh my god, yeah, everyone goes and hangs out on the street. They want you
the kids
out
want
of
them
the
away.
house.
Yeah, go away
No.
so you can do something.
My mum's like, no, read your book. Okay? I had to decide what culture to follow, and that can cause conflict because it's just different.
I mean, on one hand you decide, but then on another hand, like, you have to survive at school. So I think for any child in that sort of young age, the sort of age you were when you came here, it's very difficult not to, you know, you want to make friends. You don't want to be like the odd one out, the only person sat in a corner. That's a very difficult position to be in. So it's almost like, yes, there's an element like you decide to fit in, but then also it's kind of like, well, you're so impressionable at that age, and you want to be friends with people. It's almost that there is an element where it's not so much choice, and you're put in that environment, and you are naturally influenced by those people that you're surrounded by.
Yeah, but I guess luckily for me, which probably helped my transition a lot into England and English culture, is that I went to school with a whole mix of people, mainly black people, but from different parts of the world.
Is there any Zambians?
Never. Until I came to university, I was yet to come across another Zambian that I was not related to.
It's mad.
I've lost a lot of my culture, but I've learned so much about other people's cultures. Learned lots about Nigerian, Jamaican, Ghanaian, Sierra Leonean.
Sierra Leonean. Is that how you say it? Is that where you are? If you're from Sierra Leone, are you Sierra Leonean? If there is any Sierra Leoneans watching, is that what you would call yourself? Let us know. I think it can't be, can it? Anyway, we're digressing. So I was going to say, how much do you think you were influenced by other black cultures?
Oh, very much. Oh, very much. You know, I can do a cracking Nigerian accent. I could do a cracking Jamaican accent. Not that that's what being influenced by cultures mean, but I mean, you know, when you just spend a lot of time with people, you pick up on their mannerisms and their ways of saying things. So I'm very good at that. And the food, I love the culture, I love the music. I brought on their culture as my culture. I just call it we're African, or we're the black culture, you know.
So in terms of how that relates to your identity and the person that you are, you're a black woman first. Is that how you would see it? Or are you Zambian first? Like what's... Do you know what I mean?
I think I'm a black woman first. I don't know how Zambian I am. I don't know what... I think the fact that I don't know much about Zambian culture, minus the food, delicious. But other than that, I would say I'm a black woman first. And then where I'm from just tumbles in.
Because where are you from? How much does that really matter?
I mean, it matters a lot.
Yeah, but it depends what you mean by from, right? Because is it just where you're born? Because if, say, parents happen to be on holiday in, I don't know, Turkey, and then they gave birth to you, right, in Turkey, and then you then go somewhere else, are you from Turkey because you were born there? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how important that is, right? So there's like the logistical, like political, like where are you legally from in the sense of trying to order society in the world, and then there's also like where are you from in terms of the person that you are and like the culture that you embody. Is it where you're from or is it the culture that you identify with that's important and interesting?
But I don't know if I identify with any culture then in that respect.
Exactly. It's like you are a summation, or we as people are a summation of our experiences and the cultures and things that we interact with, right? So we're all unique in the sense that we've all been influenced by our own unique experiences, right? There's no one else in the world that has exactly the same experience as you, right?
My sister.
No, but even then she wasn't friends with exactly the same people, hasn't worked in exactly the same places. Like broadly the same, yes. No two people in this world are exactly the same and have had exactly the same experiences. So everyone's outlook is very minutely slightly different, right?
So overall, I don't have a culture that I wholly identify with.
Yeah.
It's just me doing me. What about you? Where are you from? We've talked about me for far too long.
So I actually find that a really difficult question to answer. I mean, I'm British. I was born here. And
But where are you from?
Well, exactly. And I find that really difficult to answer because I moved around so many times. And it wasn't even like moving in one area, we moved like all over the country. So I never really grew up in one place. Like when I think about where is home, I don't know, it's very difficult. I don't picture that, like, you know, people can picture their childhood home they grew up in or even a place, right? I find it difficult to do that. And then my parents split up when I was pretty young, moving between homes and people, and then even once we were in there, then it was moving around, and then so for me it is quite difficult to think of a specific place or location or even identity, you know. I was born in Banbury and sort of grew up around the Cotswolds, Oxfordshire sort of area for the first few years of my life, then spent quite a bit of time in Herefordshire, then my parents split up, then moved into a whole bunch of different houses all across Herefordshire. And I guess at that point then, primary school and high school, like I went to the same schools, but moved around a lot within that. Because I was from the countryside, like the communities are quite small, and a lot of people who live there, like their families have just lived there, they just live there and that's like their home. So people, even before they get to school, they know each other. It's all very almost cliquey, or not even cliquey because it's the countryside, so it's not really cliques. That's kind of a cool thing, isn't it? But there's already pre-established relationships in communities and everyone knows everyone and it's kind of small. And I've always felt kind of like an outsider wherever I've been, you know. I'm definitely British. I mean, it's not like I've come from another country, but like in the sense of ticking a form or whatever, like I know I'm British and I look British and all that kind of thing, but in terms of like where I'm from, I don't know. I feel like you've lived in London the majority of your life, and for the majority of it in the same part of London, in the same place with your same family. So I don't have a connection to anywhere to that extent that you do. You are very London.
It's true, and I struggle with the idea of ever wanting to leave London.
You're so London. You literally, like, for you, like, I feel like your identity is like black woman, Zambian, London. Like
probably London.
Or probably London. Probably London. Like, yeah, you just love London.
I love it. It's so great.
You know.
Transport, amazing.
Yeah.
Everything is so close to you.
There's pros and cons, and there's pros and cons. I think for me, I definitely feel most at home just when I'm with you now.
Yeah.
I guess that's what I want for our kids, is I want for them to have a stable home and a stable feeling.
In London. I want to stay in London and raise our little cherubs in London. I wanted to. Now I'm not sure.
Yeah. We'll see how things go. I don't think so.
We're not going to stay in London.
We're not going to stay in London. Basically, what I think is most important is that wherever you go, if we move around, that we stay whole as a family.
Yeah.
And whatever environment we're in, our kids know they come back to us and we are home, you know.
So how do you feel it affected you to move that much?
There's a lot of things altogether. I mean, I haven't really spent much time reflecting on it. I think when I start to think about it more, I can see how it probably has affected me quite a bit. But I mean, I think I turned out alright. Managed to marry a great woman. I'm getting my life on track. But I think I tried not to let things affect me too much. I didn't really ask that many questions. I was just I was a really quiet kid. You can ask my parents. Like, I was real quiet, real well behaved, and I just did whatever they said. So we're moving around. They're like, we're moving here. It's like, okay, you know. It wasn't like, oh, I want to stay here. I've made friends, whatever. I never really made friends. So I don't know. I think it probably did affect me quite a bit, which is why now I'm older. I can see that I wouldn't want the same for my kids. But don't get me wrong. My parents did the best that they could, and I had a great life. I was very, very privileged in a lot of ways, and I was definitely loved from all sides. You know, both my parents did everything that they could for me. There is a part of me that sort of does crave some sort of stability or a feeling of home, to think, okay, yeah, I could go back to that place and feel like home. Because even like, you know, when you see family over Christmas and all these kinds of things, it's like my family's apart. It's not like you don't feel like you're going home to see your family. You're going to see different people, which is nice. And then I have like different memories. So like, I have memories of living in one place and memories of living in another place, but I don't feel like I have a home. I feel like I have lots of memories, and that's okay.
I hope you enjoyed this video, just looking a bit about our identity. We do plan on talking about how this relates to our children, but with our low battery flashing, we don't know if that will be possible today.
Yeah, I guess we touched on it a little bit, but we will definitely have to make another video in the future talking more about how we're gonna bring our kids up and what's important to us with our cultures and values, and how that's gonna transpire to us as parents and as a family going forwards. But yeah, I hope you thought this was an interesting reflection, and yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
So, you wonderful people, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and turn on your notification bell. And until next time, bye! So wonderful,
I don't know, sorry.